You clapping?
Okay.
Alright guys, welcome back. Okay, now I got to over. Alright guys, welcome back to We Out of Time. We got a new guest today. This is...
Hi, my name is Luciano. I'm a friend of Jimmy's and everybody here, and it's good to be on here.
Alright, again, my name's Juan. This is Jimmy and Alberto. So how's everybody been?
Yeah.
How about we start with you, Albert?
Good, man. I was just down in Mexicali, you know, like always.
Mexicali?
Yeah.
I thought you were.
So why do you drive out there?
By the way, I know that's where your family's from.
Yeah, my
so-
family's from Mexicali.
Yeah. It's hot out there.
Oh my gosh.
109 degrees.
109?
Yeah.
Oh, bro, I thought it would be
Hey.
like more.
But at least you got AC in the car.
Yeah.
I hope so.
But there's just one thing. I don't really use my AC
Why is that?
Or why?
because, dude, like, okay, it's so hot outside that I feel like if I use the AC inside of the car, I feel like I'm gonna get sick when I go outside and, like, you know, the temperature change. So I don't use my AC. Where did I hear that? I don't know, man. I'm just a little bit like rustic, you know, where I'm like,
Old school?
I should like, sometimes I'm like, I should move into the woods.
Uh-huh.
Just
To the
Why?
woods?
Just get my own wood, you know, just go like chop my wood.
I hope
Yeah,
you
you
keep
He
your
likes
wood.
his wood.
I hope you keep your
Yeah, I hope
wood.
you keep your wood too.
You know, just like hunt, you know, go hunting for my own food. Who needs cell phones? Nah, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you don't have a cell phone that works. You have a cell
Never
phone.
does. I don't know how.
It never does. But you know,
Anyway,
it's okay.
I think he's referring because like, oh, I told you too, right?
Yeah, you tell me.
Yeah, so basically, like before the podcast, my cell phone died,
Uh-huh.
and like
Died as in broke.
You said that very sadly.
Cause
Sometimes.
yeah,
Like
dude,
someone
cause
died,
yeah.
literally.
My cell phone.
Died.
Okay, so
My
basically, maybe it's cause I dropped it like twice like, on Sunday.
Was that do you have a case?
It was like a table like about this big from from the floor, which is like this big for viewers.
Bro.
Did it fall on concrete or what?
Like just not concrete, just like whatever, like the floor on
Tile.
homes is tile. Yeah. So it just fell on tile twice. Now the battery don't work. Like I wonder why.
Well, I think my mom always says, man, it sucks to suck.
It sucks, man. Luckily I have a spare, but
That's good.
we'll leave it at that.
You know, it's just been hot lately.
Yeah, it's been too hot.
has-
My AC broke. That's why I asked to come over earlier. So I'm like, Jimmy, please let me come over earlier.
And I wasn't home. I wasn't home for that. I
And
couldn't.
It's literally being repaired right now, and I had to go all night and all day with it out. I actually went outside. I actually chilled in a chair outside with like the sun and wind and stuff, because it was better than being, inside.
Yeah, I can see that.
A lie. Being at a park is pretty nice, guys.
Yeah.
It is.
Even in this heat, being under a tree, it feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah, even right here in your place. You been right here in this park?
Yeah.
It's peaceful. There's no gangs around, like whatever. Anyway, how's your day been?
Oh, it's
your
been-
week?
My week,
Week.
like I said, it's been hot. So I'm trying to conserve energy now. Now that I don't use the living room as much, I just have to like 85, and the air conditioner's still going on.
At 85.
Yeah. I mean, this house can probably get to like 105 or something.
That's worse than outside.
Exactly. Some my neighbors usually are outside because of that for that reason.
Yeah.
That blows, man.
Yeah, so I have like air conditioners blowing in this room and in the other room, but other than that, like just going outside, just ridiculous. 100-degree weather? No way, man. I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you.
No,
How long have you been without your AC?
Just past day.
That's okay, so that's not that bad. You didn't suffer
Well,
too
it's
long.
not that it broke it. It's that it started leaking from like the internal tubing onto our popcorn ceiling downstairs, and we started like watching the spot grow. I'm like, oh, what's causing that?
That's not a good thing.
And then we noticed that it just stopped making the spot grow bigger when we turned the AC off. So I'm like, oh great, that's so we got a guy fixing it right now.
What kind of AC do you have?
Central heating and air bubble
Central?
Yeah, just a normal outdoor little
thing.
thingy that spins and it makes it
Compressor.
livable inside.
Yes.
Very
Southern
scientific.
California.
There's different types of air conditioners.
I know. I don't mean like
Some
a
go
window
on the
one. We don't have
windows.
any of those.
Yeah,
No,
some
no.
go.
What's funny is that we have one on and we forgot to turn off.
That's
Don't
true.
matter.
Oh. Yeah, I'll be right back.
No, don't worry. No.
Dude, it's gonna be so noisy, bro. By the way, we're not speaking into the mic, so we should like share it.
Oh, I guess we can actually do this too.
Don't break character, fellas.
There we go. Let me just edit it.
All right, but here I'm. So, Xian, how are you?
I'm good. Making sure
Beside that
that.
whole.
Yeah, tighten that.
Tighten
Tighten that nut.
Just for you, bro.
Are you
Thank
tightening
you.
his nuts, bro?
Just for you.
Thank
bro.
you.
So we'll share like 2 and 2.
Yeah, take that one.
All right.
Okay. I'll try to just
Okay,
not
look
move
at me.
as much as possible.
We'll just leave it
Um,
right there. You decide to talk.
Gotcha, man.
I need
Boom.
my foot right there. All right. So my week has been good. I went to a church retreat with my Bible study at my group at my church. I go to Flipside, and our group is called Young Professionals. So it's everyone that's like post college but pre-family. So it's like very
Oh, okay.
specific,
Nice,
but very like
actually.
lost generation.
I think that generation is definitely growing right now.
Oh
Flipside-
yeah, the millennial generations are going into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, they're in the midst of that.
And it was good. I mean, it was only a normal weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, then you drive back home. But we rented a little Airbnb up in Running Springs, which is like between Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear, and had a good time just like practicing living with, a couple of just good friends, and had some good time just in fellowship with each other as fellow Christians. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was interesting to get to know, friends of mine even closer by sharing the same space and cooperating with breakfast and stuff like that.
So how long were you guys up there?
2 days and 2 nights.
2 days and 2 nights?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
jealous.
drive up Friday, drive back home Sunday.
How's
That's
the
nice.
weather out there?
Probably just
It was
nice.
nice. The sun was kind of strong, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like this back here. Like because there was no clouds or anything. But it was much cooler for sure. At night it was positively cold. Like when we went to the jacuzzi and stepped back out, it was a big difference in temperature, just like you were talking about with your car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why you turn off your AC, right?
Where did you say it was at? Sorry.
Running Springs.
Oh, Running Springs. How
Yeah.
far is it from here?
From here, I want to say maybe 40 minutes, 35.
Running Springs. It sounds like there's a lot of like water out there. Like, is there? Or-
No, actually, it's literally,
Sorry.
there's Lake Arrowhead, which is a lake, and then Big Bear, which is also a lake, and it's like the biggest city in between them. So you have to drive like 20 minutes to get to either of those.
Yeah.
Oh, so you said it.
There
So
may be
you said it's
springs there, I
about.
didn't
So
see.
it's like about 20 minutes from Arrowhead. I've been to Arrowhead.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
like
you,
Arrowhead.
Drive-
you just gotta keep going.
basically. You skip
Yeah.
that, and then to get to Big Bear, you would skip Burning Springs, and you just keep going.
Oh, okay. I've been there. I've been to Big Bear.
I'm
Cool.
glad you guys are all live. And well, let's get started.
All right.
Wait, what about yourself? What about yourself? You
Yeah,
can't just
how
skip
was your
yourself.
week?
How was
I
your
know.
week?
How was your week, man?
Yeah, you got me. Well, my week, it's been good, guys. I actually moved into a new place.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah, you
Moved into a place with my wife, and for a while we're living with you, right?
Yes, he
And
was.
man, it was fun. A
Yeah.
lot of fun, but I was like,
It's about that time.
I was like, I gotta stop bugging these guys. I gotta get my own place. So a place finally opened up. We moved in. Unfortunately, the people got evicted. Good for us. And well, we're there now. We just picked up a couch today. People are just being so nice to us, giving us free stuff. And man, I feel blessed.
So, can you take my couch potato?
No, dude, we ran out of space quick. You'll see it. I'm sorry, I can't.
That's fine.
But no,
No
it's been
worries.
good.
I was gonna give it to
Sorry
you.
about the couch potato. Oh, that might be
Been a
good.
very good week,
The
yeah.
Gigantic.
Beanbag chair. It's a
Yeah.
beanbag chair. It's really cool though. It's really nice to just flop in. You know.
It is, but you need a big space for
You
that
need
thing.
a
Bigger
big.
than the 4 of us combined.
Yes.
Yeah. Too bad it's not an offer.
I was just gonna ask about. I was gonna ask about the potato, but you guys already.
Yeah,
chimed in.
it's a fat potato.
It's a fat potato.
Yeah,
Then how fat is it?
Fat.
Fat.
the three
no,
C's
like, no,
thick.
you gotta get your like a lower lip. Fat.
So you guys hear about the
Everybody's heard about that.
monumental, well, Roe v. Wade got overturned, and some people are happy, some people are mad. What do you guys think?
What do you think?
First impressions.
You know,
Thoughts?
let me just say this. Okay, so me and Juan share similar opinions. Albert has a kind of like a neutral opinion about this,
But what's your opinion?
and he has a differing opinion. So like that's what I'm gonna start with.
Well, can you give like a brief description to like the people listening of what Roe versus Wade is?
Oh,
That
so
is what it means that it's gone.
yeah, it is what it is. Gone. So
It's
there was
gone.
a ruling Supreme Court of the United States, the 6-3 ruling. Essentially, they ruled that abortions are unconstitutional and they should be handled at the state level rather than the federal level, granting, granting federal access to abortions, legal and safe. That's what they say.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The decision was made. Well, not decision. The original Roe v. Wade was passed, or I should say, ruled back in 1973. So it's been a relatively new tradition, but also still, it's not old. It's not new. It's kind of in living memory that Roe v. Wade was passed, and now it's gone in about half of Americans' lives. Back in 1973, and then now in 2022, it's been revoked.
Okay, I see that. All right, opinions though. What do you guys think about this? Is good? Is bad? What's gonna happen?
I think it's good.
Why
I think
is
it's
it
a good thing because, in essence, babies' lives are going to be able to flourish and to actually be able to live. You know, of course, there are opinions and thoughts about what's the word when the baby is not
In the womb?
miscarriage.
Miscarriage.
Miscarriages and different issues that come up with pregnancies, but they can all be taken care of in a case by case basis, and we'll go over that a little bit more. I'm just glossing over everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing, and of course, different states have different opinions about that as well. So California still has that enacted, like that you can have abortions in
Right.
California.
And that's the state we're in. So
Yeah,
everybody knows I'm at home.
Yeah. So we're in California. In other states like Texas or Alabama, they have strict rules about that. You know.
Okay.
So it like you said, it was given to the federal gave that opinion over to the states, and honestly, I think it's a good thing, but it's a start. I want it to actually continue moving forward, and that babies' lives in every state have an option to live. That's
Okay.
my opinion.
All right. So overall, good thing. There's a little bit of nuance in there. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. All right, who's up?
Go ahead.
Go next. Simple answer. I think it's a bad thing. And I can address some of Jimmy's points, but I'll give my own opinion first. In that, it's been something that I'm not a guy who likes abortion. I don't think anybody likes the idea of having one, of having to make the choice to do one. And it's an incredibly difficult decision for a woman to make to terminate a pregnancy and for whatever reason that she may need to. And I don't feel as a man that I have as much say as a woman in what happens to her body. Just by virtue that it's not mine and I will never get pregnant and I will never understand what it means to make that choice. To have to decide between carrying a baby to term, maybe raising it because there's always the option of adoption, but even still having a baby inside you for 9 months has effects.
Oh yeah.
It affects your hormones. You may not have the same opinion of your choice later on than when you did, and then if you've already given it up for adoption, yet you start to feel attached to the baby, then you get that motherly disconnect, and you there's a lot of strife and emotional stress that happens with that decision. And I think allowing someone to make that autonomous decision over their own body is incredibly important to keep us actually free and independent. Means that you have to allow someone to make their own judgment over when they're ready for a baby, because you use the word flourish for babies to live and flourish. That's what's now going to happen after Roe v. Wade has been revoked. And the stats sadly don't show that. The stats show that when babies that would be born to women who otherwise would have had abortions end up actually having 4 times more likelihood of being in poverty. And I think after a certain period of time, they're 3 times more likely to need government assistance, because usually the women who get abortions tend to be lower income because they just simply can't afford one, or it's not the right time for them to start a baby. Even if they have the means to, they want to continue their career or their education. And a baby, whether you're planning on it or not,
changes your life dramatically.
Oh yeah,
Completely,
I do agree completely with
That
that.
becomes your number one focus of you and your husband or whoever your partner is or whoever they are.
or lack thereof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even more so in that case where I was just reading or watching a video of a woman from Texas who because of Texas, they have that abortion law that now she has to live under. She was 6 weeks and 1 day pregnant. And because they have a heartbeat law where abortions are banned after 6 weeks because that is the average time that a heartbeat is detected, she could not have an abortion for her third child while she was still struggling to maintain her 2 other children alone because she was a single mother. And to force that, it just causes so many more problems. There's so much more societal damage that's caused to the person, to that generation that gets forced to be born. It's almost not worth existing under those circumstances.
That's kind of rough. Not worth
Yeah.
existing.
That is kind of rough.
Yeah. Oh, we got another opinion over here.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think it's maybe it might be a matter of perspective in some circumstances. Like you mentioned a lot, I try to look at things from both sides. So far, I'm neither for or against abortions. I haven't had to go through that, so right now I don't really have an opinion on it. It's not something that's like being relevant to me so far, so I haven't really given it that thought. But based on what you guys are saying, maybe I'll give a little bit of pushback maybe on some of your things or on some of yours.
Bring it.
Yeah, so basically you mentioned a lot of facts, right?
Mm.
So I think a lot of things come from a matter of perspective, right?
How so?
So because you said it might not be worth living for the baby,
That's
for the
where
society.
I go into my personal views.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So facts are facts, but they can be interpreted in different ways, right? Like for example, if you get like statistics, they can be presented to you in a way that pushes a certain viewpoint across.
For sure.
And with those same like facts and data points, someone else might push a different viewpoint across.
I assure you boys and I assure the audience that I looked up only the most reputable organizations and not ones that worded it or did kind of statistical, machinery to orient it a certain way.
Yeah.
Like there was one specifically where they did a story on abortions, but they counted the number of abortions in a year, but they only included 18 to 49-year-olds.
Uh-huh.
And even if the outliers in that group are a very small number, I think it's more honest to have the number of abortions performed a year of all ages of women.
Yeah.
So I didn't use that stat. I'm like, well, I can't bring that up because it's not specific or real enough for me.
Okay. So if we bring up just like how a person might feel, right? Of course, this isn't like facts, but let's just go on a little ride here. How do you think a person that got to live because their mother didn't go through an abortion, how do you think they feel? Do you think they're fortunate that they lived?
Let me get on that one. There are two sides to that, because there are people that, again, they come up in poverty or they come up more fortunate, and even then, even then, people that are fortunate sometimes actually develop a different, how do you say this? I don't want to say attitude, but like they actually attitude towards life.
Yeah.
They don't like what's going on in the world. They don't like what's going on around them. They get picked on a lot, things like that. They don't look as good as everybody else.
Sounds like high school.
You're saying that even though they're born in privilege, they may fall off.
Yeah, we're born in a first world country, and we're technically more privileged than a lot of different people, And in the first world country, we still feel like some people feel depressed of who they are and how they are, where they're going, Some people feel even though that they're alive, they don't want to be alive, But on the flip side, there are people that get to live and get to thrive, even in the situation that are around them, And
It sounds to me like you're arguing for the human spirit to thrive, right? Or what are you arguing for? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Like to give them that chance?
Yeah, to give them that chance, I would suggest to say like give everybody the chance to actually win at life. You know.
I think the complication is where you give them that chance, but it might be at someone else's expense. Like, I'd say carrying the term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
So-
in my opinion, when it comes to if the statistics back that up, then I believe that even more firmly. Because, I mean, by default, if you're forcing someone to do something they don't want to, they're already starting off at a bad point. If they have to take care of a child that they otherwise would not have, even if they're prepared for it, like somehow magically, then they're already less free. Because now they have their life and liberty is now contingent on this child being born.
Now let me go into another point real quick about this.
Actually, before you get that here, I got a question for both of you, and it goes. You can word it both ways, so it works out perfectly. I just thought of it right now. So-
before you ask that question,
Shoot.
Can you like?
Before you ask that question, could I?
Yeah, can you hand him over the mic every time he speaks so that we can get like quality
Sounds
audio?
good, yeah.
Because it's important what he says.
what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but
You don't want
Who's asking the question now? You get the mic.
all right. So
Yeah, thank you.
I hit the mute button.
So you hit the mute button.
It's back on. All right, but here, my question is this though. First to you, and then to you, because it would be the exact opposite question. So, are there any conditions in which you would feel or believe an abortion is necessary or valid?
Abortion is necessary or valid. Now, the only places I believe that it can be valid is in the danger of the mother. You know, if it endangers the mother's life to actually have that child. Like personally for me, I'm gonna make this personal for me. If my wife Alexia, she was giving birth and she couldn't have the baby due to her bodily functions or something of that nature, and she's in danger of dying, that's a life and death situation. That's not
Okay.
an opinion. That's not an I don't want this kid.
Okay.
You know, this is life or death. You know.
Yeah. Okay. I got one that's gonna hurt though, and I have to challenge it though. What about this? Is gonna hit close to home. Okay. What if, God forbid, your wife was assaulted or the victim of incest? 'Cause those tend to be like the extremes always brought up.
Okay. Now, for me, we would still probably have the baby anyway. You know.
That's a huge
Yeah,
sacrifice. Wow.
I would want to have have that kid grow up and be able to have a life.
What's the reasoning
Now,
for that?
That the reasoning for that is it's still going to be my wife's child, regardless of the man that assaulted her. It's still my wife's child, and I want to be able to have him grow up. That's my opinion of my wife and I. Now the
Okay.
situation of another person, I would still push to actually have them go up, have the child, and either put them up for adoption or take care of themselves, because it's still a life. You
That's
know,
a huge
my
sacrifice.
where I stand on abortion is where it's life or death.
Okay.
You know, that is the only time I will ever accept that an abortion.
All right. So same question to you, but the exact opposite. Are there any terms in which you feel
Ban one?
abortion
Yeah.
is not like necessary or a valid option?
Can I respond to Jimmy real quick?
Yeah.
As long as you let him respond
Sure, yeah.
to him right now.
Don't worry.
All right, go.
So your line is life or death, which is very admirable. How much? This is very kind of gross to think about, but how much?
Okay.
Oh, what
How-
I guess we're going into it, so like you can go into it.
It's not actually gross, but it's like how much medical damage can your wife sustain before you choose her over the child or the other way around? Instead of life or death, like how much inclement to her health would you be willing to sacrifice in order for the baby to be born?
You mean
Or
what?
if your choice
So-
is to take out the baby and have her be perfectly healthy and leave the hospital the next day.
So the question I go back to you is, give me specifics. Like, is it going to be a lasting effect that she has neurological problems or back problems for the rest of her life? What is
She can't walk. I don't know.
like what is the repercussions that you're talking about?
I don't know
It's
the
not life or death.
specifics. Yeah, sorry. I don't know the specifics of what all could happen, but I know there are issues with women being fertile again if they're forced to give birth to a child. Like, I'll give you an example. If they're forced to have a C-section, odds are you can't have a natural birth for a long time thereafter. And sometimes they can never have a natural birth again because the strain on your abdomen when you've had a C-section already means that usually you need to have a C-section for the rest of your pregnancies for the rest of your life because your skin is a lot thinner. You know, the actual risk is of having your belly burst and things like that. But if the line is between life and death, how much risk are you willing to have your wife go under in order for that child to be born? Like, let's say she's in the hospital for a month or 2 weeks. Is that worth having your child be born? Or
Now,
2 months?
If her life isn't in danger and she isn't in excruciating pain, giving birth is excruciating pain, period.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You know, but
it?
is it like it's?
I mean, I wouldn't
and
know,
my
but
question,
I've heard.
I mean, I've heard too. You know, but my question to you is: her life going to be continually affected by that excruciating pain? Is that going to be chronic?
Maybe. There's no way to know. Often doctors will tell you like, well, you could either have the thing that I recommend, which you're going to have the best chance of getting out of with all your health, or you can try anyway and we'll see what happens. That's usually, I mean, not specifically in pregnancy because I'm not an expert, you know, pregnancy doctor guy, but that's often what doctors tell you, like, hey, we could do what I recommend, or you can risk it and who knows what will happen.
Now,
Question.
Life and death is off the table, is what you're trying to tell me. It's
there's no risk of your wife dying.
There's no risk of wife dying. There's no risk of her just passing away with the
but
child.
injury is what we're talking about.
Injury is lasting injury. Now, that's a conversation that I would have between me and my wife.
Yeah.
You know,
That's part
something
of the nuance, yeah.
That's something that I would want her opinion on. You know, my opinion would be to go as long as you can, and if you can't, and if she decides I don't want to have that lasting effect on my body, then I would go with her opinion.
Okay.
You know, because that's something that's gonna affect her in the long term, and we won't be able to have babies in the future, and quite possibly her body will change with that or something like that, and we might be able to have a chance to have one in the future. You know, so my opinion is that I would work with what she would decide, but I would venture to decide, let's keep it going until you can.
Thank you for answering. To answer your question, at what point would I forbid abortions? It would be a long time ago. I tried to find a place, a time, a deadline in the pregnancy where I would not be comfortable with it happening. Let's say we're up to me. It used to be that I believed in 8 weeks, where that's the actual, roughly the time that an embryo becomes a fetus, which is where it becomes from a clump of cells into an actual, you know, that little freaky looking thing that grows in women's bodies.
Yeah. Us.
Yeah.
I grew up in mom's bodies. I'm one of those freaky things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all freaking things.
Eventually.
But I don't know anymore. I kind of erased that 8-week margin, and I don't know at what point I would be fully comfortable because it's so nebulous as to at what point a fetus becomes viable, which is much later in the pregnancy, or when it starts to feel, you know, sensations and possible pain or the heartbeat and things like that. All of that changes from pregnancy to pregnancy, and I have no hard and fast rule because pregnancy is not a hard and fast rule. Because all kinds of things can differ and change. And at the end of the day, as a man, I don't know that better than a woman does. So I can't possibly tell you, like, I'm not going to allow you to have an abortion at this point in time because of my personal feelings about when that life begins. I do think there's a point where it's too late. The specific number, I can't tell you. But I am comfortable with, I would say certainly the first trimester, which is between the first 3 months, and then thereafter it's kind of like, well, you know, then I side with Jimmy where like it has to be a medical issue, or rape or incest or etc., where there's actual external reasoning to remove it besides choice. Yeah.
All right. Well,
But-
the reason I bring it up is because there's some men that heard that, hey, they want to keep the baby. They tell the mom, hey, have the baby, I'll keep it. Let's just have the baby born. And, well, they don't have much say in it. What do you say to those guys?
Sorry, not your choice to make.
That's rough.
That's rough.
Well, here, I guess what I want to get into is, it feels like we're kind of getting to the area of, well, when are you morally liable for a baby? For, let's say, from people, because people use different terms, from fetus to embryo to baby. Where are we obligated to say, hey, that's a human life? At what point, I'll repeat the question, are we morally liable for whether you call it a baby, fetus, embryo, cup of cells? At what point do we finally say, that's human, we got to respect that person?
I want to start on that
Okay,
one.
go for it.
So, like, we start thinking. I'm thinking about life. Where does life actually begin? Does it
Okay.
begin right as you come out of the womb? Does it begin in the womb, or does it begin at conception?
Okay.
You know, because when the sperm fertilizes
Birds and
the
bee.
egg,
All right. Sounds good. All right.
fertilizes the egg,
Okay.
becomes an organism, and that live organism continues to form. That organism then begins to
Divide.
divide, and I don't know, like it continues, it advances and it develops into something that will actually have a heartbeat.
So at what point are we morally liable for that organism? To
That
be
organism?
treated as a human, as a person,
It's
as
as-
whatever you want, whatever
that
words.
life.
Okay.
As
So
life.
you want to call it life. Okay.
I want to call it life.
Because I feel that a lot of people get really muddied down on those words. Like, is it a fetus? Is it an embryo? A human? Baby? Life? And I feel like that's where people tend to really get, I guess, argue about technicalities of terms. And we have to, I think, in order to understand each other, we have to agree on certain terms.
I say life begins at conception.
Okay.
You know, when it, because that life starts to continue on and to develop in that cell, in those cells, and then it becomes that heartbeat in the embryo, and then from that embryo, it actually comes out as a child. You know, of course, I'm not a doctor, nor have I actually gone deeper into. Do I remember all of that stuff? You know?
Biology.
Biology.
Biology?
But
So if I got this straight,
that's the word.
if I got this straight, you stand at when the egg fuses with the sperm, that's the beginning of life.
That's
At that point, you respect it.
Yeah,
And
I
you're
do.
morally obligated to keep that person's right. At that point, it's a person to you.
Yeah, I believe it's a person because the heartbeat doesn't come out of nowhere. You know,
I feel like you got something to say.
I know he does have
All
something
right.
to say.
It's so stupid.
Let's pass it here then.
Sure.
It's on you.
It's such a minor note, but there is a difference between the sperm fertilizing the egg and being an organism, or when the fertilized egg actually implants onto the wall of the womb and travels up the eggs come from the fallopian tube, so they're already in the. I think they're already in the womb when the sperm go in.
Yes.
Anyway, gross details aside, would you rather believe that
Fascinating.
life begins the second that first sperm like hits the finish line, or when the fertilized egg implants onto the womb? Because that's actually, it could be up to 2 weeks later that happens.
I would say when they're actually together.
So at the very moment that you go from two haploids to a zygote, that's fancy talk for 46 chromosomes. Okay,
Yes.
you were going?
Well, this is completely. I was just gonna say, I think it begins when you know it begins. You know, when you find out, that's when like, okay, it began.
Oh, okay. So when she tells you,
Philosophically.
so when she tells you, I'm pregnant.
Exactly. That's when it's like, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. Well, here we are.
Question
that's
then:
it.
when do you
Like,
think?
if you don't know, then like. you
When's
can't do
the average
anything.
time that a woman finds out that she's pregnant? Do you guys know that?
I think 6 weeks, right?
Month in?
No,
I'm going 5 weeks.
no,
Well,
probably
what's-
even
what's
2
your
weeks.
guess?
2 weeks or 2 weeks as well.
I've already learned, but I'd say maybe about a month and a half, yeah? 2 months?
Okay.
5 weeks.
How late do you think a woman's pregnant? Her period can be before she starts to suspect that she might be pregnant.
Oh,
because periods can be late.
Yeah,
They can be
yeah,
early.
yeah.
It's
I would give it about a week. Oh, actually, I've had to.
About a week?
I've had
Nah,
a couple
maybe longer.
experiences, but yeah, but
I'll tell you right now.
About a
My
week.
wife has had irregular periods at times. It happens to most women, irregular periods.
I think it depends on what kind of activities she's been engaging, and then how late the period is. You know, if she's Virgin Mary, she might not be too worried about it.
I mean, I think you'll know when the angel Gabriel comes down to your wife. Hey, girl, you're
It'll
pregnant.
tell you.
God's gonna plant a baby, so just don't get matched, lady.
But that's a very special a case. So you know, like guys at home, if your girl tells you that that an angel came down, no, don't believe none of that.
Yeah, that
Watch out.
ain't true.
Coming to this conversation of Roe v. Wade, what kind of questions or compelling questions do you guys have for each other?
I didn't think of one.
We had 15 minutes. You can go
Very
first.
compelling.
All right, I'm sure Jimmy will think of something, but I'm gonna, for anyone who wants to answer, we know. I mean, you know that when something is outlawed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it stops happening.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you've heard by now that on the news, like, women will keep having abortions. They will now be less safe in the states where they're not allowed. They will they'll just keep happening. And I looked up the stats. This will be the only stat I mentioned, by the way. But in 2019, there were 630,000 abortions performed.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh.
There's stats on what I think it's like 59% of the women were just in their 20s. So the vast majority of women who chose to perform an abortion were in their 20s, most likely because in your 20s as a young woman, like, you probably don't want to have kids. You're probably not ready. You're probably focusing on your career education. So my question is, one more stat. And it's that if now that abortions are outlawed, the statistics show that 73,000 more children will be born. So it's not that 630,000 will be not performed. It's that 73,000 children will now be born that wouldn't otherwise. That's a big difference, which means obviously abortions will still be performed in back alleys and whatnot. And I don't need to tell you that obviously a better solution to this problem of unwanted pregnancies is contraception, sexual education, and having the resources provided for every woman to prevent a pregnancy in the first place. And all the things that come with that, like a stable household, like just practicing safer sex easily, for sure. So my question is, knowing that you won't really get exactly what you want because abortions will still be performed, how do you, or give me an idea of how you would solve the issue of people getting pregnant when they don't want to be?
That's a leading question, because like
Okay,
the
if
only,
you
like
could
almost
wave a
like,
magic wand, which one would you tackle? Which would you change? in
so
people?
that's a leading question, because like it's either A, you kill the baby, or B, you keep the baby. Like it's either or. It's not a.
I would ask you or advise you, answer it how you see best.
Look, I just have one big sticking point here. The fact that, yes, you're defending women, which is very good, that got pregnant. And of course, there's like outliers of like, women that get raped and things like that. But that's real.
Things,
I
yeah.
think most women got pregnant because of unsafe sex practices, right? So there are things called consequences.
Yeah, I was gonna
How?
call on that.
And it seems like they're taking the easy route because they weren't like conscious enough to, when they were doing the deed, if I'm gonna do it at least. And there's so many options now. It's not like back in the day where like they were unaware. There's so many options now. So I think those are consequences. From that perspective, we can still like go on and on about like whether if it's good for society to have that many like people being born. Like, is that a good thing? Like, are they taking up resources? Are they
Is Thanos correct?
Thanos?
Thanos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just my point of from that point of view. I'm like, man, there are consequences. So if you just want an abortion because you went out and you had unsafe sex, and now hey, look at that, you got to be responsible. Then got to take a hard look at yourself.
I agree. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't like abortions. I wish something had been done prior, or that maybe the circumstances ended up being that they just simply didn't find out in time, and in which case you have to deal with the situation that you're presented with. But bringing up that woman who was in Texas and couldn't have an abortion because of their 6-week law, she was on contraception, because contraception is not 100% guarantee that you won't get pregnant. She was on birth control, I should say. I'm not sure if she used a condom or whatever. But even so, those are only like 95-ish% accurate of actually stopping all this sperm.
Okay.
That's a great point. I gotta give you some on that. Yeah.
No,
Hey,
but you do have a point, because for sure a lot of pregnancies are mistakes, to put it one way or another, whether you want to blame the woman or the man or whatever went
They
on.
just wanted to go at it,
Or
man.
both.
which is
Yeah,
fine,
ultimately.
but at least do it safely, you know. And if it happened by chance, like maybe it was destiny, baby. That's all I
And
gotta say.
then I gotta add on to that,
Can I
like,
do a mini question?
no, oh my God,
Who
what-
here has had unsafe sex?
I have.
Okay, so you risked it.
The thing is, I knew I worked with a condom first to understand my body and where I go from, you know, and then after that, after I learned about myself, then I practice unsafe sex because I know when I'm about to go.
Here, I gotta turn that question on its head. I would say I have not practiced unsafe sex. I say my sex life with my wife,
With my wife,
and only my wife, is safe whether I use contraceptives or not. Because I know my wife, I trust her that she has not keeping anything from me, and that if she gets pregnant, I'm okay with those consequences.
yeah. And that's the thing, you know, I would prefer to have children in a setting that, like, oh hey, we want to have kids, you know, they ain't a mistake. I wanted to have them.
I think it's a separate conversation too, because having a stable family home, as you were advocating, right?
Of course.
It's extremely important, and that's something that just goes. It's not really brought up. We bring up women's rights and all, but we just have disregarded the nuclear family.
How do you legislate that, though? How do you force people to stay together?
I say you can't legislate it, but you can make sure they own up for their responsibility, not their responsibilities, for their actions. Say,
That's
hey,
another question.
You
yeah.
made decision, like Albert was saying, made a decision to consciously have that unsafe sex, if we call it that, if it's outside of marriage, and you know, and if you're rolling on the STD, you know, rolling the STD dice.
It's called child support.
It's called child support.
Pay your child support.
Pay
You
it.
know who you are.
I would say that though, yeah, it's a family. You can't force someone to stay together, but you can definitely incentivize them. Like, hey,
Whoa.
you shoot.
We're forcing women to stay together with their babies with this decision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's the bigger topic though, because like,
So-
hey, you're forcing yourself not to kill that baby,
yeah.
and that sounds completely different than saying, hey, you just took the baby. Well,
Is-
the baby is your baby.
Is it the child's fault though? Like, is it the child's fault that they wanted to have sex, unsafe sex, without knowing themselves? You know, is it their fault to, like, you know what? I'm okay to die. Is it what about their opinion?
Yeah, I don't
You know?
disagree with you. It's just at which point we determine a baby is a baby, and that's
Yep, and that's
that you
that's
could
the tough
really
part.
spend 3 hours straight on that.
Yeah, that's the
We
tough
kinda-
part right there.
We kind of glossed over it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a very tough topic too. When is
Mhm.
something considered? Would you say a baby or human?
a human.
Well, it's human because it can't
Yeah.
be anything else.
But I
Right.
guess when does it have value
What? Yes.
as a citizen or as a
Yeah.
baby? Yeah.
It doesn't have a social security number. There's no, there's all kinds of other things that change when before a baby's born. Like legally, the baby's only born the day it comes out in a woman. The day. It could be if it's a premature baby. Okay, you're a human being on this date, and that's just how we do it because legal matters and moral matters often can't agree. And so we have to just make a rule and stick with it.
I would side with the moral part though, especially as opposed to legal matters. As if someone says I'm not a citizen, I feel I still have some worth.
Were you gonna say something?
No, I'm just gonna.
All right. You know what?
Well,
though?
I was just gonna
After
say.
you, go first.
I was gonna say that he's got a strong point there. Speaking of legal matters, because the conversation began speaking about a law that was just been overturned, right?
Mhm.
So we're not.
A ruling, yeah.
So I think we're like speaking on behalf of the legal matter and not so much of the moral matter.
But I can see your point, but I feel that the morality of the issue influences legal law.
It does.
Yes, it does.
That's why they're hand in hand, because I'm gonna bring it to this point. At some point in our nation's history, the U.S. history, slavery was part of legal law. It was okay, but the morality of it is what had it overturned. So I think it's important to keep both in mind when you're deciding what to legislate.
He's bringing out the notes.
But hey, if you have something to say, I'll go to you. But I do want to let him ask the question if he's come up with one yet.
Is it the baby's fault for the parents' decision?
No.
Well,
Which is I do pity whether you consider it, whether it's scientifically an embryo at the time, scientifically a fetus at the time, or in your opinion a baby at the time. That thing, whatever it may be, had nothing to do with it. Which would, if I were in your situation, like you mentioned earlier with your wife, and if your wife were assaulted,
How about your wife?
Yeah.
Just your future wife.
if I'm
Let's put it in your
I don't know
shoes.
what my choice would be, because
That's
ultimately,
totally
I would give her 88% of the choice by far. I don't think I would want to make that call. And if she was confident with one thing, I'd be like, let's go with that, babe. I wouldn't say babe though. I hate that term
Me
of
too.
endearment. It's gross. Like, babe.
I use honey.
Oh yeah.
I use girl. Hey girl.
Hey girl.
What's up,
What
girl?
you doing?
Straight
What's up,
F-boy
girl?
over here. What's up, girl? What's your name? What's your sign?
I wish
I've seen those videos.
All right.
I wish I had a girl.
Womp womp.
Yeah. let's move on from that. I do have one more stat, and
Sure,
it's straight up applicable to us as a country now. So when they've done studies on countries with strict abortion laws or more free abortion laws, basically if it's legal or not, they've shown that I could cite the exact number, but nobody. I have the number. So
They're more happy.
it's 37 out of 1,000 women have abortions in countries where it's illegal. In countries where it's not, and all the other ramifications that come with it, like better health care, better contraception, etc., it's 32 out of 1,000. So there's less abortions performed in the average country that has abortion legal than where it's illegal.
Well, but you gotta think about it. Where were those stats actually taken from? Because
Every country that would willingly give the information.
the thing is, United States will probably have an exorbitant amount of abortions over that statistic.
Meaning per capita?
Yeah.
No, per capita it should be equal
Or-
because it's over 1,000. It's not like a hard number.
I just want to sound smart. So
Percentage.
correlation does not equal causation. So one thing, just because it's all out in those countries does not mean that is why there is less.
But if on average it's that much of a difference, I do think there is a correlation.
We would have to analyze point by point because there could be a lot to pick from.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it's a huge topic. It's gonna be. Oh, there we go. Amber alert, guys. Silver alert. Sorry, guys. We have.
We
what we talked to our-
Get yours.
No,
Your Amber
not yet.
Alert.
But it's a huge topic. What's going on, and it's gonna be for quite some time a big topic now that
Roe v. Wade.
they've overturned Roe v. Wade. Sorry, I keep hitting this little button and mute, guys.
That's
So
fine.
if there's any closing statements you'd like to make about the topic, go for it. If you have somewhere you want to be shouted out at, let it be known, and we'll see where we go from here.
I say give it to our guest.
We're each gonna.
Give me a moment. I need to think a little.
All right,
Okay, then I guess gave it up.
Me and you, and then we'll go down.
let's do it. Outside the middle.
All right, so I guess over the course of this conversation, thank you for the many facts that you brought in, and I got to learn a little bit about each side, and I still haven't made up my mind. You know, I guess I won't know until I cross that bridge, you know, where I have to like decide.
So will you practice safe sex or unsafe sex to test where you stand?
I know. That's the question.
Okay, I guess if you put it that way, if it come down to it, I would hope that I would make the decision to keep the baby. If it happened to me, like it happens to many people out there, where I had unsafe sex, and if I had to choose, like, keep the baby, if I felt like I wasn't ready, and I was like, you know what, I don't want this baby, I would hope that I would still keep it.
Okay.
You know, own up. That's.
I like to hope.
Yeah.
I hope.
That's being a real man, being responsible and loving towards that child. Now,
All right, well, shoot for me, yeah. So, if I haven't made my opinion known too well yet, I do stand with keeping the baby. I think it's very important that the family be together, as whether it be my child, and me and my wife, and we do have a child. I think it's best that we keep the baby, in order to, I guess, develop a strong society, and I find that it's just so difficult to have a prospering society without having a stable household. And that's what I want to promote more than anything else. People taking responsibility for their own actions, if it is that case. In the case of tragedy striking, that's a tougher topic. But I don't think we should make rules based on outliers, such as tragedy. But I am okay with exceptions being made on those cases.
got it. Now, my final statement is that, yes, I went over when abortion might be okay, which is life or death. But in all reality, for me, I stand against it. Huh?
No, sorry, you go on.
I stand against it. You know, it's the woman's right to not have sex. It's the woman's right to practice safe sex.
But he's just so smooth talking. He said it feels better without a condom.
I know.
But
But you'll be stupid.
You just slid in there.
You slid into those DMs, right?
Yeah.
Slid somewhere else.
No, but like, it's their decision to practice safe sex if they're going to have it, or to not have it at all, or if to actually have that and to be able to have that baby. You can also give it up to adoption. You can also take care of that baby, and of course there always are instances where they're gonna grow up in poverty, things of that nature. Yes, but I still say it's better to have life than to take it away from take that choice away from that kid. So that's me.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'll be very succinct. I think if you value life of both the mother, the child, and the quality of life of both mother and child in the future, you would be pro-choice because of how the statistics show that their lives are impacted by poverty, their lives are impacted by the stagnant, lack of education and lack of higher paying jobs because of all these real world effects that take place once you take that choice away. And in the end, if you don't like abortion, don't get one. That's the argument for gay marriage, and it worked pretty much the same because there's no one being impacted by, okay, maybe if you don't like seeing gay people, all right, that's your issue. But they can get married. And then what goes on between them and their household, not your problem. What goes on between a woman and her womb is ultimately, especially us as being for, guys, it's really not our problem. And
I know a lot of women that are against abortion too.
Of course. But based on the real world effects of this choice, I have to say that choice is the way to go because it just, you can't just have a moral standpoint and end it there. You have to examine where your morals impact people's lives, especially when you are doing something that impacts others' lives. then you have an even higher responsibility to watch out for them. Because if it impacts your life, all right, if you mess up, that's on you and then you can recover it. But especially if you have power, like the Supreme Court has one of the most enormous amounts of power in this entire country, and they make the choice of 6 people, 5 of them being men, to say abortion is gone in every state that doesn't, allow for it specifically. That has ramifications. That has consequences. And that will cause a lot of people to be born who are not going to live great lives because of poverty, because of poor opportunities, and just the virtue of not being in the right place at the right time. That's all I got to say.
All right, sounds good. Well, guys, we're just 4 guys talking about women's rights, but you know what? We don't got time for that. Well, we're out of time. All right, thanks so much, guys. Again, thank you again, Lucian, for coming by.
No problem.
Jimmy, Alberto.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.